Anand brand wax deers. They're scientifically engineered to last longer, burn brighter, and keep on lighting. Anand brand wax deers do not require any prepping or filling and has less spillage and cleanup. These deers are recommended for outdoor use and can withstand light wind and rain. Plus, they're eco-friendly. Redeem your use cases for cash back. So put some green innovation into your Diwali celebrations with Anand brand wax deers.
Diwali Passport, brought to you by Chatak Food Products and Anand brand wax deers.
Here is your WESN News on the Hour. I'm Naomi Macnish. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Santa Flora man freed after 42 years in prison for 1982 murder. 19-year-old shot 20 times in Gonzales. Mother believes he was killed for rejecting gang. Man to be charged with murdering New Grant woman. And police officer shoots robber at Arangwes Savannah. Now for the details. After spending over 4 decades in prison, 78-year-old Felix Dean was released on Friday following his resentencing. Dean was convicted in 1987 for the murder of his lover, Marjorie Singh, in 1982. Justice Tricia Hudlin Cooper, who presided over the resentencing, noted the heinous nature of the crime but acknowledged Dean's remorse and good behavior during his time in prison. Dean's sentence was reduced, taking into account the 42 years already served, his failing health and efforts toward rehabilitation. He had originally been on death row before his sentence was commuted. Dean, now legally free, expressed deep regret for his actions. The mother of 19-year-old Shondell Barrow believes his son was murdered because he refused to join a gang. Barrow was shot 20 times near his father's Gonzales home just after midnight on October 13th. Ayana Cumberbatch Barrow said her son had received death threats weeks prior and went into hiding for a time, but had returned. She described him as mischievous but not involved in gang activity, stating he died innocent. Barrow was part of an AC installation program and was heading home after visiting friends when he was killed. A male relative of Laura Sankar is expected to appear virtually at the South Criminal Court A on October 15th after he is formally charged with her murder on October 14th. Police said charges would be laid following advice from the Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions on October 13th. Sankar, 34, was chopped to death at her post office Trace, New Grant, Princestown home by a male relative on October 12th, shortly before 6 p.m. after the two had an argument. Her 16-year-old son tried to fend off the man with a stick. After failing, he ran out of the house with his 7-year-old brother and cousins to a neighbor for help. Police said when they responded around 6:30 p.m., the son showed them to the man who was sitting on the lower level of the home. He was taken into custody and the cutlass was seized. Sankar was the 6th woman to be attacked in the last week. 4 of the victims died of their injuries. A police officer shot and killed an unnamed man who reportedly tried to rob the officer and his son at the Arangwes Savannah on October 13th. A police report said the 41-year-old police officer from Santa Cruz went to the Barataria police station at 10:20 p.m. and told officers he had been jogging with his son around the northern side of the Savannah, close to the priority bus route, when 3 men approached them. He said one man pointed something resembling a gun at them. The officer said he drew his gun from his waistband and shot at the men several times. He said one man fell to the ground and the other 2 escaped north and west along the bus route. The officer contacted the Northeastern Division Task Force. First responders found a man of mixed descent in a white vest, blue 3/4 pants and black slippers lying on the ground with blood on his chest. He was taken to the Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex but died at 9:50 p.m. Officers processed the scene and collected a 9mm spent shell and a blood sample. Well, that's news to the hour on WESN. I'm Naomi Macnish. Thanks for watching.
Come travel with us as we explore Diwali across the globe. Diwali is celebrated in many countries worldwide, but do you know the traditions and practices of each nation? From Guyana to Australia, WESN presents Diwali Passport.
October 9th to October 30th, with replays on October 31st.
It's Diwali Passport, a WESN exclusive.
WESN.
You know, there's a lot of interesting thoughts about being true to yourself and never apologizing for the things that you say. Now, in a lot of those cases, it's comedians basically saying, I told a joke, if you don't like it, don't listen to me. But what do we do when it's in Parliament, right? Now, to some extent, and I think this isn't the first time a caller has told me, well, technically this behavior has been going on all the time. And that might be true. And I guess it's one of those things where it's a shame. But talking point is here now, so generally speaking, before on talking point, while it's been running, and now and in the future, I'll call it out for what it is. Even though the precedent has already been set on the behavior, while I wouldn't necessarily say it's been normalized, it has been, to some extent, expected or within the realm of expectations. And that is, of course, Stuart Young's comments. Very quick comments, but comments that were not to be encouraged, nevertheless. Here's the thing. At the end of the day, this is not something like the crime situation where we want to see a solution. The solution to this is basically he could apologize for the comments, right? And people are calling for him to apologize. And therein kind of lies the catch-22. At what point am I going to think that any apology he offers is going to be genuine? After various groups and individuals are calling for him to apologize. When you have to force someone to apologize, when you compel someone to apologize, then what's the point? In fact, that's part of the reason why you need to be very careful when you do so. I mean, for little children, I guess part of it is to train them, you know, you need to apologize in a situation. But at some point when you're dealing with an adult, you kind of have to let him sink or swim to his own devices. Any kind of influence potentially cheapens the action you're trying to get him or her to do. Because technically speaking, the price of bread did not change. One could argue it exasperated the culture of bullying in the country, because while technically speaking, you could make an argument, well, It's not as though Kamala was bullied and then people laughed at her and the opposition was bullied. But what was said was along the lines of bullying at the very least. It encourages a behavior pattern and a mindset that could lead to bullying at the very least. It could, in all truth, be a form of bullying. Because you're essentially making fun of someone in a not so pleasant way, using not so pleasant speech that has very little to do with the reason why you were gathered together, and more importantly, unless someone tells me the two of them pitching marbles, not just back in the day, but all now, I have a hard time thinking this was anything but derogatory. It was a personal attack recorded. But if he apologizes now, I mean, whoop-de-doo, he apologized. After, and the unfortunate thing is, and this is why I say people need to be careful when they try to influence someone to apologize. He could give a sincere apology now. That don't mean that people will believe it. It'll be tough to believe given the political climate that we find ourselves in anyway. But then again, you have groups call, the more groups call for Stuart Young to apologize, the less I am inclined to believe any apology will be sincere. So at this point, I don't care. I don't need it. It really doesn't matter. And I think to some extent he may understand that. What's the point? All it would do for him, what it would continue the negative press, and people probably won't accept it anyway, so why bother? And that's the unfortunate reality we find ourselves in. Because to some extent, the fact of the matter is, if he did try to sincerely apologize, people probably won't accept it anyway. And I guess this is why I harp on not just what the government / the majority government, the PNM, those in elected office, those appointed officials connected to the party. I don't just analyze and comment on what they say. I do so for the UNC. I do so for the TPP because I'm trying to be consistent. It doesn't matter that the PNM may be responsible for the majority of all of the nonsense that has been inflicted on this country because they didn't realize by winning elections, you know, the responsibility comes with winning the elections. You can't pass the responsibility off to other people while being in charge. That's not how it works. So, as smart as they are, apparently, they can be quite, let me step back away. They can appear to be quite foolish with regards to their mentality on how they interpret things. But just because someone is in opposition doesn't mean that their communication skills, the intentions, the policies that they propose cannot be criticized either. That's why I want to see a higher standard. Because I think the government's getting away, but the opposition and the Tobago THA executive are, at least at one point with the THA, maybe not so much in recent months, to be fair, feeding into this political environment that is toxic, that encourages and facilitates bullying, and that allows for things like this to happen, but more importantly, does not give the public any room to have any faith in any sort of goodwill coming from the political class. It's not that I'm saying the public should not have any sort of goodwill for politicians, should not give them the benefit of the doubt. It's just that we're boxed in a corner and we can't do it. So, anybody that wants to ask Stuart Young or demand that Stuart Young apologize, please stop. It's a waste of time. On all practical levels, I don't think it would mean anything. And at the end of the day, to some extent, this is more than just one statement that needs to change. So again, when they talk about the murder rate and they want to say that they're sorry for this and they're sorry for that, I don't care about that. To look beyond now at the bigger picture. I don't care about all the apologies for the level of murders and the unsolved murders that we have. I don't care about the sentiments expressed by politicians over how sad and upset they are about the people who have died this year alone. I want to see something done. I don't care about Stuart Young apologizing for this situation. I want to see something done to improve the professional conduct and the communication professionalism by our elected officials. Part of the reason why the police can't get its act together with regards to public relations and customer service and public interaction is because the politicians are leading the way. And it's on all sides. Let's be clear and frank about it. Most, if not all, politicians in all parties, for whatever reason, at the end of the day, it is not unreasonable to say they fall back down to the average. Very few stand out with regards to how they communicate and handle themselves, dealing with the public. There are a few, but in this twisted political environment we live in, the more the media praises the good ones, if they praise them too much, it's not going to encourage other politicians to do better. What's going to happen is they're going to complain to their bosses, oh, he's making us look bad, and they're going to hammer him down because the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. That's party politics for you. And if anybody wants to think, oh, my party is the greatest thing since sliced bread, good luck with that. Maybe the TPP might show something different along those lines. They don't have a history yet for us to judge. But I already know enough to know that happens in both the PNM and the UNC. If you don't like that, well, do me a favor, tell your party to be better. Don't complain to me about how dare I bad talk X, Y, and Z. Truth is truth, and at the very least, that's what I've observed. Finally, just to wrap things up here, Hannah Matura, the DPP, has put charges on the two parents, recommended that they be charged for murder. At the end of the day, it's a consolation prize, but it's so far removed, I don't even know what to feel about a situation like this. It's not current, so it's not a sign of things that are, but to some extent, it's a sign of things that were. And generally speaking, I think our situation is worsening and has worsened over the years. So if we are parents capable of this, then what are parents capable of now? All right. Before we welcome the good lady, however, it's time we start off today's daily review. All right, and to continue, and this is not to beat a dead horse, we don't necessarily need to spend too much time on this. It happened again. It wasn't a kidnapping, it was a robbery. Apparently, bandits dressed as police and wearing camouflage, so 2 in what is believed to be police tactical wear and 3 in camouflage, robbed a Moruga family. They came in to say that they're searching for illegal, I think it was, I don't know if it's drugs or guns or what have you, and they ended up taking people's wallets. It's just, here's my problem, right? We have to say fake police unless we have something to prove otherwise. But to what extent can we really be confident that most, I ain't even going to all, I'm sticking to most of these situations are fake police and fake soldiers? Because we've had one situation already, again, that it might be an anecdote, it might be a one-off, it might be the exception that does not prove the rule, but we don't have evidence to push back the unfortunate speculation that we find ourselves in. we also have a second incident that may or may not be evidence of a soldier involved in a home invasion. So the question is, but before you folks, how do we know that these are fake police and fake soldiers? How do we know? That's all I have to ask in this situation. Could the police executive and the head of the defense force and the minister of national security and the prime minister, the rest of cabinet, whoever else, somebody with some sort of knowledge that could speak with some sort of authority on the situation, tell me what is the reasonable indicator that we, the public, could feel as though, at the very least, most of these incidents do not include real national security agents, service members, officers. Somebody please tell me this. Let's not also forget, we've had arrested individuals dying in police custody. We've had arrested individuals dying in the prison services custody. We have had officers lie about shooting their own colleague. None of these things have been addressed. None. 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 What we need is true leadership. What we have are substitute teachers. Because this is what happens. I had a substitute teacher once. The same students that would not just behave, but would be ramrod still and silent as a mouse throughout our entire economics class would then be as raucous and out of control in our maths class. The difference? The teachers. Because one was a substitute, and at the end of the day, the students knew it. And they got out of control. Same school facility, same school environment. The teacher himself was not a bad teacher, the substitute. He was just a substitute. And when the substitute comes into play, it's not difficult for control to be lost and everything goes haywire. Kind of like what we have now. Tell me that that is an unreasonable argument to make. Someone please, because that's all I have left to hope for. That what seems to be obvious truths or maybe my misinterpretation. Because I no longer have the capacity to say, oh, well, it's fake police, it's fake police, it's fake police. Oh, fake police here. Folks, please be in mind that there are fake police, so fake police could be, no. Not after 2 weeks ago. And to be fair, that was probably me being naive, holding on for so long. A business chamber basically came out with questions about this. Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce basically said the police needs to do something to rebuild public's trust and confidence. You want us to report extortion. And we don't know if the people who we are reporting the extortion to are the ones doing the extortion. We don't know. Because you have done a poor job. Listen, even if it's fake police, it's your fault for not cleaning up the large amounts of fake uniforms and equipment that they could utilize to fool the public. Because the last thing you want is a public to start to assume that every law enforcement agent that is going to bother them is fake. Because then the public might think, I need to fight back. And then, when it gets before a judge, at some point somebody's going to say, well, I thought these police were fake, Your Honor. And the judge might actually have to concede the fact that that is a real possibility in Trinidad and Tobago. We already have the state being sued for the misconduct of officers already. This is not that much of a stretch. Let's move on to the next story, just quick, too sweet. And I just want to highlight this before, again, this shouldn't take too long. A gentleman in Gonzales, a young man, 19 years old, shot and killed it was believed because he did not want to join a gang. In fact, it was reported that threats were made against him 2 weeks before his death, his murder, where demands were made that a side be picked. And they sent him away to hide, and I don't know why they brought him back in only 2 weeks. Apparently, and stop me if you heard this one before, apparently they reported it to the police and have yet to hear back on that. Threats are made against my son. I'm reporting it to you. Your feedback. We're still waiting for it. He's dead. We're still waiting for it. Yeah, that's how long does it take for an officer to get a report and at the very least have a preliminary discussion? You don't have to put an entire witness protection program in place, buddies. You just need to talk to the people. Even if it's preliminary and it isn't that valuable and it seems like it's not going to go anywhere, you still need to have the conversation with them to try and see what can be done, even if there isn't much that can be done. But hey, it's not their son, so I guess they don't care. Who is they? You could put the entire national security apparatus from the head of the National Security Council on down and basically say that is they. They don't seem to care. Because if they did care, they would do something. But they're not doing anything, so what are we supposed to think? I'm not saying they don't care because I'm trying to disparage them. I am basing that they don't seem to care based on the results, based on their communication, based on their action or lack thereof. And I would like to point out the reason why this is bothering me is not just because he's 19, but because he didn't want to be. Apparently he was associated with individuals. He may have been known to them. He may have grown up with some of them, nearby, friends, whatever, and then they may have joined the various gangs. His family did not want him to join a gang. Apparently he did not want to join a gang, and they killed him for it. This is also a story that we have heard before. So I would like to point out to the national security people that if crime, Prime Minister, crime is a public health hazard, right? And we need social programs to try to encourage our young people not to join a gang. Well, you have lost control of the situation to the extent that if you don't join a gang, you could end up killed. So I want to ask you exactly what part of what you're selling is going to actually make a difference in the lives of these young men and women. Because it sounds to me that you're a used car salesman trying to sell these young men and women a broken bridge of broken dreams. To what extent does this even make sense? When the young men who are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing, what you want them to do, what we all want them to do, to be fair, but what you're relying on them to do in order to try and fix the mess because you don't know how to fix it, they end up dead. Because that's the only thing you have left. That's the only lever you have left to pull. That's the only clarion call. You want to blame the parents? Fine, blame the parents. When you point fingers at other people, no matter how justified it is, just remember 3 fingers point back at you, and it's all justified. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll switch gears. Stay tuned to Talking About in WSN. We'll be right back after this.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus. Quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for, it's called loss and damage. And we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region.
Man is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. And Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
Hello there and welcome to AM Prime on WESN Content Capital. Before we even start this repatriation and reintegration process, we've already failed, or are we doomed to fail?
You've got to invest in the institutions that you've established to carry out those sorts of core functions.
We now get into the regional updates to give you an understanding of what's happening across our neighboring islands.
We have available a number of films that are worth showing.
So it was day one when the French Revolution started to develop the concept of universal human rights.
What happened this time is unprecedented. It's one of the largest terrorist attacks in history.
Let's welcome Carl to the program. Carl is over there, next to himself. Hello, Carl.
Silky anteater or pygmy anteater, and we have two of the three species of anteaters right here.
And we're back here on Talking about WESN, the Content Capital Television, with a different show. Michael Small, joined by the good lady herself. She has seen the halls of power from the inside, sitting in cabinet. with the likes of some of the people who are sitting in cabinet right now, which is very pertinent to the current story that we're going to tackle. Of course, I speak about the good lady herself, Karen Neshashera, former Minister of Finance, and Internet Law, good morning, etc., etc. I would just like to point out, folks,
yeah, just say that.
right?
Say
She said etc. I didn't say etc.
Yeah, because, you know,
right?
I think we have established enough of that.
And when people might say, why is he so rude? He calls her Karen. It's like, well, that's because the good lady asked me to call her Karen from earlier club.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And I resisted for as long as I could until I was told by even my own mother, you know, stop, you know, call the poor woman Karen.
Yeah. Poor the poor woman.
I'm paraphrasing.
Take out the poor out of it. I don't mean into the well. But anyway, getting back to the story of the day. And,
yes, so this is one I expected you to be looking to comment on because PNM convention was cancelled. And the General Secretary specified when asked, one of the few comments that he offered was that it's not postponed, it's cancelled. So now we are left to wonder what exactly does that mean when combined with the Prime Minister alluding to, not necessarily outright saying and giving us a plan, but alluding to this may be his last term in office, something he has done in the past.
Right, so I'll have to start by saying yes, one of the things that Sean has said, yes, and I did give him permission. I like so many people, little young people who don't know me, who come through law school and want to call me Karen. Well, I've straightened them out about that already. You know, it's just a matter of, anyway, that is beside the point. The point is, what does it mean and how do we interpret it? So, having looked at it and have been interviewed on it, I've gone into a deeper dive to try to understand why the decision was made. It clearly was made after much thought and much consideration. It was not done on, you know, a knee-jerk response. That, I think, is clear. How it's going to play out and what is the benefit, because it is politics we're dealing with, and politics is about winning. It doesn't matter if you're in the opposition or you're the small party, you're not running the country. So at the end of the day, the objective is to win the election. So I want to start by saying why, and they've been very clear that it is not a postponement, it is a cancellation. And from my reading on one of, I was trying to get it before I came on, but I did read it before I came here today. They said the last time they postponed or did not have a national convention internal elections, I think it was the period 2010, 2011, that's one. They said also within the last 2 decades is the lowest, slimmest majority by which the People's National Movement has won an election. And that in fact in the last election, they won 22-19, but the point was that the UNC gained a seat, the Moruga seat. And then the local government elections, in a sense, surprisingly to some, that some may interpret it one way, but it definitely does show a dissatisfaction or cynicism in regard to the People's National Movement and this leadership under Keith Rowley. And if you have any doubt, the EBC, which I have the report for 2020, they said that over 1.1 million people are entitled to vote in Trinidad and Tobago, yet we got a 58-point-something% turnout. That's the lowest that we've ever had in several general elections. That speaks to the apathy, in my view, and the cynicism. Another key indicator, and for the PNM, I imagine, when they're doing their, looking at the data and trying to analyze it, obviously with the intention of improving their position. Of the 58.8, you would note that in most of the constituencies that are controlled by the PNM traditionally, the lower turnout was in their constituencies as opposed to the UNC constituencies. Else, had it not been the case, the voter turnout would not have been as low. And not unsurprisingly, depending on your point of view, the 40-something percentile was found in the general election in the constituencies controlled by the our own Prime Minister. Our own Prime Minister, 47%, I think he got turnout, and Colin Imbert, around the same figure, as well as the other Diego Martin seat. So if that is any indication, and then you look at the UNC, where their strongholds are, and on average, it's between 59 to 60% voter turnout. So what does that say to you? The apathy is more on the side of the PNM-held constituencies as it is on the UNC constituencies. And that must be a matter of concern. So coming back to having set the back, and also the local government elections. When you look at the local government elections, which was spread out over 3 days, and I think it was meant to be sort of a preview of what to expect for the national elections. I mean, when you see that in the last challenge for the leadership of the PNM by Penny Beckers when we were in opposition, the Prime Minister as leader of the party got over 15,000 votes. When there was a challenge to him recently in 2020, which I participated, did not do well, but that's not the point. The point is, really, that really is not the point, because the party membership, because the party members alone can vote for that. It's an internal election. The numbers had increased by 30,000 since then, yet the turnout was just about 8,000. The first figures I had was 7,800, but let's not quibble with that. It is a significant drop in the number of persons who participated in the local government elections. And this was in the papers, and I wrote the article, and I got the answer to confirm this. Let's see who it is that voted. If when you go in and you have to come in as number 25 in your correct polling area, and they give you your bundle to vote because you voted for a number of positions, they want you, if you came in as number 25, that's the example I use, they would tick it off, okay, John Brown, yes, he qualifies. But then you stamp on his booklet, number 25. Why are you doing that? And that is why they came in and asked, and why we asked, why are you stamping the number 25 on that booklet? I thought it was supposed to be secret balloting, because the only thing one could conclude is that you could count, you could
see who voted for who.
Yeah, so you could have said to them, yeah, I went and vote for you all, but and so on. But that is an assurance. I say, I thought you said you were going to vote for X. But when we look at number 25, and we look at your booklet, you see that you did not vote. And most of the voters were CPEP workers and URP workers, as I understood it and as I experienced. And on the day of the convention, they had, I don't want to say the wrong number, because I did not prepare for that, but if they had 600 people voted on the day of the convention, and if the Prime Minister, on the last day of the 3 days that he allowed for voting, got a couple hundred votes, and finally turned up on the last day in the afternoon to vote, you can just look at those data, not what they're telling you, the data that's showing that the PNM is on a downward spiral. So bring me back to why the cancellation. He has said, he said in 2020 very clearly that this was going to be his last election. So it's not a question of interpretation. Then in this budgetary period, this is his swan song, right? So he has indicated that. But if that is so, why are you not having the internal election? Because the internal election is for the appointment of key positions, general secretary, chairman, deputies, but key is the leader. Now, in our constitution, understand this, if he does not have an internal election, it means he is going into the national election as the leader of the party. And under section 76(1)(a) of our Constitution, I brought the wrong glasses, so I hope I could read it. I hope you could pick it up too. Where there's a decision for the appointment of a Prime Minister, the President shall appoint as Prime Minister a member of the House of Representatives, who is the leader in that house of the party. Leader in that house of the party, which commands the respect of the majority of members of the house. So it stands to reason that if you won the elections, you already have the majority in the house.
Right.
But who is going to be Prime Minister of the country It is the leader of the party. So it stands to reason that he did not want to take the risk. These are the 3 reasons I have come up with. And they may be wrong, but I don't think they are very wrong. Usually, and that is from my experience also, and the history of the PNM. They may have the infighting and squabbling and all the things that go on within the PNM, but this time you had Robert LaHunt coming out and talking about the issue of it being the democracy of the whole voting for positions. You also have persons like Penny Beckles, who was sent off because, you know, she dared to, well, I say dared to challenge him for leadership, so he's sent off somewhere. Amy Brown, who I think they felt was a threat to them in Diego Martin. That's my view from my experience in the elections. Sent him off in Brazil and he behaved well, and so they brought him back. And there's even Mr. Manning's son. I don't know what he really thinks. I mean, if I feel strongly about how they treated Mr. Manning, I just can't imagine how his son may feel. You also have Foster Cummins, who I believe has ambitions to be prime minister. So that is me making speculative, but they're not unfair speculations, that those persons, and the reason why they are coming out in a way that they would not, or be seen to be coming out in a way that they would not have done in the past, because the prime minister is going to resign. Is going to resign. It's clear that he's going to resign. And he has indicated that he left to him, as if he is living in a magisterial, the old days when you could appoint, you know, when the Queen, things...
Monarchy?
Monarchy, thank you. It's a monarchy, and he's king, that he has indicated whether that is right or wrong, but the country has taken it to mean that he has decided to put the crown on Stuart Young. The PNM members are not having any of that. That's my view. One, you have had people like Penny Beckles, you have had people like Foster Cummins, you have had people like Robert LaHunt, who said he has been a PNM member for 40 years. Listen, none of them have spoken to me, so I am not speaking because somebody came and whispered in my ear.
Yeah.
I am speaking on my experience, and my experience is also born from the fact that when we had the internal elections in the PNM, you might have been shocked to see those who were standing in the background, behind the curtains, who acted as though they had no interests, but really wanted deputy political leadership positions. They were burning up with ambition. I am not asking you, I am telling you. So these ones, and that does not necessarily include any of the persons that I have called at all. So they are not going to sit back after toiling in the vineyard of the PNM party for 20, 30 years. And also, we can't take the race and class out of it. The reality is, just like the UNC, whether you put in a lot of other persons or who are not Afro-Trinidadians, the fact of the matter, I think after experiencing a prime minister whose clique has been in the main, in his important positions, whether it is energy, whether it is finance, those persons not only do not represent what is the PNM base, if you're looking at race, and race is a factor. I didn't make it up.
Or demographics.
That's the factor. I mean, I'm not making up that factor.
Sorry, economics to be specific. Race is a demographic, but also socioeconomics.
Right, and then the people who he has there come from the upper middle class and wealthy upper middle class of this country. And one of the complaints, in a way, them being there for 10 years, has had to taken the wool off people's eyes to realize that the same grassroots voters who have voted a day, balisé till they're dead, where are they today? Right there at the bottom of the barrel. And what they have seen is the ascendancy of a handful of persons who do not represent who they are. And I do not think they are going to sit back and allow the Prime Minister to anoint. I have nothing against, well, I think Stuart Young is a failure as a Minister of Energy. And I have the last figure for the natural gas. It's 2.4 million cubic feet. That is coming from their own ministry. It's about the worst it has ever been. All the talk
2.4 is the production or the shortfall?
No, 2.4 million is the production.
So but the shortfall is still going to be...
It's 4.1 is what they need
right,
at a
so
minimum.
It's going to be 1.6 or something, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
And that is coming from
or
courtesy.
1.7.
Right, it's coming courtesy from the Ministry of Energy. I didn't pull that out just like that, you know. I went to the review of the economy. And if you're looking at barrels per day of oil, it reached down to 47,000 barrels from 57,000 barrels a few days ago. You are a complete failure. That dragon field with the license means nothing. How many times am I going to say that? How many times are you going to pretend all this work you're doing in dragon field means anything if you don't have the OFAC license extended? That is why Shell will not give a final investment decision to dragon field. But you keep pushing that head. Keep pushing that head. That's why they agreed to Manatee, because Manatee, which is only 20-something% of the Laurel Manatee gas field, Shell did give a final investment. So listen, Mr. Stuart Young, I'm sorry, you don't have the demographic of race. You come from an upper middle class family, as does your father, as does your brother. You do not identify or not seem to identify with the grassroots, and the grassroots by now have become wise to that. And I cannot see those persons that I mentioned who did not give me any insight at all. I have not spoken to any of them. But from my experience, they are not going to, and that's why he won't call the national
the internal elections.
Because you see, now they don't have anything to lose this time around. Before, people had to stay quiet because maximum leader, that's the constitution that allows that. Now it is clear, whether for health reasons or whatever, age reasons, whatever the reason are, the Prime Minister has made his decision, they know they don't have long with him. They know they don't have long with him. That maximum leader is going to go. And just as how they did to Pandey and how they did to...
Mr. Manning.
There's Mr. Manning, and also, what's his name? She said she didn't want a national... She didn't want a national funeral. God, what's his name? I mentioned.
No, but this is the wife that said that for
yeah,
her
wife
husband.
said that. For that. Yes, who was the Prime Minister after Eric Williams died?
Oh, Robinson? No.
Oh.
Not Chambers? No.
Chambers.
Chambers, okay.
Right? Chambers, I lived near where he lived. Nobody knew about him. They very well know that when Rowley steps us out, they know that he has no more power. He could say what he wants, but he doesn't have the power. And this is it. And he does not want to take the risk, in my view, of him being really challenged by persons within the party.
Well, him being challenged, or the person who he wants to succeed him being challenged?
Well, I think, it will be
even
worse.
It's just semantics, right? But to
worse.
clarify what you're saying, that's basically what it is.
No, that's not what it is. That's not what it is. That's not what it is. Because in fact, if the one he wants goes up for leadership, that will make it even worse. Because now the people will know for sure that is who he wants, right? But there's a way to ensure that he is not going to be it. And that is why the Prime Minister is in a catch-22 situation. Because what it says in 76(1), we're not talking about a no-confidence motion which calls on the resignation of the Prime Minister within 7 days, as well as the dissolution of Parliament. That is for no-confidence motion, which of the majority of all the members in the House, not only the ruling, but all members. We're not talking about that. We're talking about that prime ministership and who is going to be prime minister. Now, if he steps down and he dies after 3 months, he's going to step down. He cannot anoint anybody, because what has to happen now, as the legislation says, where it appears, you have it up?
No.
Where it appears to him, we had to talk about the president, that the party does not have an undisputed leader in the House, or that the party, nor the party commends the support of the said majority, the members of the House of Representatives, who it is judgment is most likely to command the support of the majority of the members of the House, and who's willing to accept the office of Prime Minister. So let us assume he goes into the election, because that's why he's not calling the election, because he wants to go in there as the party leader. And Section 76(1) says it is the leader in the House of the party
who will be Prime Minister after the election.
So that's why. So you're saying he has been leader.
You're saying he's gonna go through the election as leader.
That's why he did not call in after the election.
Basically, kind of shepherd in the new regime.
No. He's gonna, but you see, that's the problem. That's why it's a catch-22. Because if he did it before, that's why the National Convention into the election would then have people coming out of their holes and challenging. And
Yes.
if Stuart Young does not come out to challenge, then it's sure that's who he wants to, as the leader. And if Stuart Young comes out, well, then they're coming on even harder. And listen, the PNM didn't win by a very high majority last time ago. So whilst people say the UNC in shambles, the PNM going to look as more in shambles than the UNC. And remember, it doesn't, yes, they did not listen in the last election. The Henry polls, which was highly respected, said in 2020, the greatest concern of the electorate wasn't the economy or crime, but it was COVID.
In
COVID
2020.
Exactly. He doesn't have COVID this time. What he have is a stumbling economy and a runaway crime, and infighting within the PNM that might explode in the open, given the fact that the maximum leader will not be there for long, and they will not tolerate Stuart Young being anointed. So if he steps down, what they can do is say, let us decide among ourselves who we want to be the leader. And he cannot exclude also too another catch-22. If he's staying as the leader, they're talking about appointment of potential MPs in PNM stronghold. Let him leave out Penny. Let him leave out Foster Cummins.
Well, I mean,
let him leave out.
But the flip side is, this is the one area that he will have control over.
Yeah, but
if
you
he
don't
tries
understand.
to block anybody from being political
Yeah,
leader.
but you don't understand. Okay, so you
because if they win the election with him as political leader and he steps down, the only alternative that the PNM would have is to elect an MP as political leader in order for them to have the prime minister.
Right, and I am saying to you, based on my own experience, in 2010, when I was going up for the constituent W. Mira, and NACTA said I was the most 98% approval rated, even more than Jack Bone. I still lost because my constituent told me out and out that they did not want Patrick Mann, and they told me that.
Right.
They said they wanted Keith Rowley,
Right.
and the whole East-West corridor. When we lost.
But the reason why I say that is, what if Dr. Keith Rowley identifies this is the person I want to succeed and this is the greatest challenger and tries to figure out a way to block their appointment to Parliament?
But don't you see what will happen? You underestimate the, people. I think you're underestimating.
This is a question. This is a question.
Okay,
this
if you're asking me, right?
Yes,
if you're asking me that question, you are underestimating the persons within that cabinet who have been sidelined and who cannot wait to get rid of Rowley, partly because he has surrounded himself and made the inner circle persons who have not served in Vineyard except Colin Mimbert, but who they do not identify as being the grassroots, and who the results both from the internal elections they last had in 2022 and the general elections they had in 2020 indicate that that there is a lot of dissatisfaction. And if those persons feel that they can come out in a way that they could not in the past because he is going to step down, and they have now the right, once the elections is over and the Prime Minister decides to resign, he can't anoint anybody. They have to, among themselves, decide who they want and probably write to the President and say, this is the person who has the majority support of the MPs in the party on the assumption they want. On the other hand, if he says anything or does anything before the general election, it is going to build up the UNC stock, and it may also mean that some of the B parties might form part of the A party because they are seeing the writing on the wall that what they're saying about the UNC losing because they shamble.
Yes.
It's the same thing they will start to say about, and not only that, they may allow Kamala to win, but do the same thing they could do to Rowley.
The thing is, there is a world where even if the PNM looks to have all of their ducks in a row and everything in order, they may still lose because they are incumbents whose results are less than impressive, to say the least. But basically, this is potentially the PNM trying to hold things together, because I guess what you're saying is, if they had an internal election in November, right, the infighting for that
It'll be more open.
So much commerce.
And it'll be more open.
I don't think you saw it, but I was there at the opening of Balse House, and I just saw but one small part of the rivalry, right? Just in that alone, because it's an open secret among the PNM that there's technically two Balise houses, and they opened one which was built, I believe it was started to be built after the other one was started, but the other Taj Mahal, as some people call it, is not finished, and that's a whole other kettle of fish, right?
Do not underestimate what is going on behind.
One of the individuals that you've named as having ambitions, I won't necessarily connect all the dots, was responsible for the Balise house that was open, from what I understand, right? So that's where there's potential fractions between two ministers, two cabinet ministers, two important cabinet ministers already. But then there's also the fact that there are others who have ambitions, as you pointed out, and there's no clear front runner.
And they may be resentful of the current
situation. Would you agree that, whereas with Dr. Keith Rowley, it was clear that that's who the voting, the membership, it was a clear thing. That's who they supported. That's who was picked.
No, what I will say,
okay. There's no consensus after Rowley, right? There's no one person who will say that's the obvious choice.
Okay, so what I will say in answer to that, data. If it is that he was such a wonderful choice and people really were behind him, there are 105,000 party members in the PNM. No, and when it came to voting,
meant for 2016,
I'm talking about now.
Yes, I know, but I'm saying Rowley, he was the obvious choice for opposition leader, for political leader, after the election was lost to the partnership, way back in 2010.
Yeah, but that was always that is
he
true.
Was the obvious, right?
Yes,
what
and
I'm
he
saying
did get the
is
support.
We don't have that now.
No, he does not have that
So
now.
that's why you're saying this thing could be one hell of a mess.
And that is why he's trying to stave it off, because you see the control, this is just an opinion, the control that he could have exercised and keeping people in their lane, especially when you want to bring in Stuart Young. No, people in their 20s, listen, Mr. Young, this is not personal, you know, politics has a morality. I don't mean it in the way that Mr. Pandemia meant it. I meant it that all is fair in love and war, and right now there's a war. And I'm telling you, from my experience, just from internal elections, when I was there, you would not believe what was going on behind the scenes for positions. And I am saying this time around, it is two things, as I've said. There's so many things. One, the voter turnout was low in the PNM constituency, very low for the Prime Minister. His internal election was half the number of persons that came out, and the number of members in the party had increased by about 30,000 since the last challenge to him. And the fact of the matter is that there are persons who are signaling, that's why it's in the media, signaling that they are not going to stand by. So he will not call the national internal election because he wants to enter into the general election as the party leader, because I read out section 76(1)(a) to you. But that is no protection for him, because if he does step down, as I think he will step down, it's not a question of him taking a crown and giving it to who he wants. It is going to be left to the MPs who are there to determine who they think should be their leader. And if he leaves out some key members, he might not even reach there.
Because
he might not even reach there.
Because this is like in Obama's last term, the last year, the kind of authority and power he wielded, particularly amongst the politicians as essentially the leader, even the leader of the Democratic Party, it was not the same as when he started, or even the start of his second term. And that's essentially where Dr. Keith Rowley finds himself. There's no way around this, right?
That is correct.
People are going to know, I mean, even if he tries to hold on for another term, at some point he's going to get into this situation where it's going to be obvious.
They're going to move a no confidence motion on him. That's what they're going to do. There's also the no confidence motion. Listen, that is what happened to Pandey. If the opposition are not going to vote with him, so you only need about 5 or 6 defectors on the PNM side, especially when the race is so tight in terms of, you saw it last
election,
and
also some people would say that the 2 seats in Tobago are essentially lost to the PNM potentially right now. And that means their margin of victory, if they lose those 2 seats, is 1 seat over the UNC, which means that
It might
winning
even
the
be
election,
that.
winning the election is not a guarantee for the PNM, no way, shape, or form.
That is what I'm saying, and I'm saying that why are you not having a convention? Because you want to go in there as the party leader. Why do you want to go in there as the party leader? Because of Section 76(1)(a). And why do you want to go in as the party leader? Because you want to be able to say who are the MPs in the PNM stronghold. And you better be careful who you put there, because that will even antagonize a lot of them who are willing to fight for prime ministership because they are not prepared to have what they consider an outsider or at least a newbie who does not identify with the grassroots of the PNM to become a prime minister. I cannot see it.
The other thing with that is, one would have thought,
that is just
right, if everything was hunky-dory, the convention and the internal election, if things were going well.
When I say hunky-dory, what do you mean?
They didn't have any potential issues, right?
Right. You're making any
but my point is...
You sound like a politician.
No, hold on. Hear me out. No, my
issues.
point is, this is why I think what you're saying is very reasonable. Because if there were no issues, then a convention with an internal election would have been an opportunity to show, hey, we are strong and united. The opposition party might say they're united, but we actually united. But they pulled up brakes on that. And I think it's very curious that they said cancelled, not delayed. Yes, not postponed. I mean, I don't even know why Minister
he wants
Cummings,
to go inside as the party leader so that 76(1)(a) he be prime minister. But let me tell you something. There's many a slip between the cup and the lip. And there are many of them, just like what they did to Patrick Manning. Just like what they did to Patrick Manning. I can say that as a fact. Patrick Manning, they clearly were people within the PNM who wanted to make sure that the PNM did not win. And one could speculate that some of the people who are there now were people that Mr. Manning was not going to bring back. And the only way of coming back was for the PNM to lose. Some people may say so.
I'll just say this. I want to take the break here. But you know what might be an indicator of what Karen said? You know who you could tell may have those opinions and may be acting in that way, that may feel that it's not in the best interest for the party to win, when they go on stage in the campaign cycle and they half-heartedly use this tone, great is the PNM, it shall prevail. I will never forget, maybe I'm wrong and I'm misremembering, but I'm pretty certain I saw Dr. Keith Rowley do that at least once in that campaign. I could be wrong. It could just be my memory.
Yeah, but we are all saying, we all at this point in time speculating, because I certainly have not had anybody whisper anything in my ears.
No.
But I have been in the PNM and I'm reading the tea leaves, and the tea leaves are, there's no real, I think the Prime Minister is in a tough position, because if it is Stuart Young you want, that might more, if I was in the PNM now, and I had the likes of the people like Penny Becker and so on, they are not going to sit down there and let Stuart Young become Prime Minister. They're not going to sit down there and allow that without putting up a good fight.
All I will say is this.
They are not going to do it.
I'm not entirely
and they did not tell me anything.
I'm not entirely sold that Stuart Young is the guy. I'm not entirally sold.
Who it is?
But he is central to the plot. And that's all I'll say. That's all I'll say.
Protege, you know, when you're choosing, if you're going to step down, you're right, you don't know for sure. But if you're going to step down, you want a protege who will continue to get on like how you get on, behave like how you get on.
Who will build the hotel and call it the Rowley Hotel?
The bad boy behavior and all that kind of thing, and will continue what you think. You're not going to put someone who's not going to continue your legacy, which you might be owing to a handful of persons.
Look how that has not worked out. I think both in TNT and abroad. Al Gore tried, failed. Hillary tried, failed. Technically, one could argue
yeah, but he going to try.
Biden was his own animal by that point. Yes, he could try. But
he could try, but there's a constitution.
This conversation, we have to stick a pin in it here. We're not ending it because this is going to be ongoing for at least a year. We have an election coming up.
You think it's a year? Listen, when they dissolve Parliament, it's within 3 months they have to call the election, and it's 6 weeks. Right? So if he's not having a national convention...
You think it might be sooner? You think there's a sign for it being sooner?
Well, within 3 months. So some people say by May, might be earlier. Because he understands his stocks are low. The amount of infighting and going on in that PNM, if I have any indication...
Right now, with real police conducting a murder kidnapping, I think it might be better to wait a while. The stocks, any direction from here is potentially going to be up.
The energy sector, the economy, and the crime situation is as bad as it can get. They do not have COVID to help them out. The data is there. And what could happen if you see the bacchanal start in the PNM, which he's trying to prevent by not having a national convention. And if he doesn't elect those same people as MPs, that is another set of bacchanal. And if he puts them in the House, and if he wins, then you know that his days may be numbered, and his chosen one allegedly will not be one. And also the other side of it is the UNC gained a seat. They gained a seat in the last election.
Local,
in the national election.
Yes.
From 18 to 19. And if the B team sees the bacchanal going on in the PNM, they might very well say, let us stay in the party, and we could do what they could do to Rowley. We could have a vote and say that we do not want. Once we inside there, say, let us take a vote whether we want Kamala to remain as Prime Minister. And then we send somebody to the President, signed by how many of us, saying, she does not have the majority support of the members of the party, and get rid of her that way.
I have never necessarily felt as strong as I do on this concept as what I say now, but Tobago will decide this election.
All right.
Right? And okay. I just hope our brothers and sisters on the sister aisle, they make a good choice, whatever the choice is. I'm not saying what choice is good.
But you use the word a good choice.
A good choice, but that is open to their interpretations, right?
Also their good choice.
Yes, it's their choice.
Not your good choice.
Not my good choice. It's their choice.
You have a good choice, but you're not going to really feel it.
Do I? I hope I will have a good choice. Anyway, folks, let's take that break. When we come back, we'll open the phone line. Stay tuned. Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity, from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus. Quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
Welcome back to Talking Point, ladies and gentlemen. And now is the time we open up the phone lines. We want to hear from you, the viewer, because believe it or not, this internal situation is of national importance, whether we want to admit it or not. We did the same thing with the UNC's internal elections that happened most recently, right? Because they were of national importance. It's the same thing. Now is the time to get your opinion out there. Maybe you want to question us. Maybe you want to disagree with us. Maybe you want to give us a different scenario, a different hypothesis, different possibilities. You know, something that we didn't mention, didn't have the time to mention. You could highlight it now, call in and have your say. I'll just say this. The thing is, this is tracking with what I've said all along, that the Prime Minister has kept a lid on things, and I feared what would happen when it's time for him to go. And I said that years ago. We have Tunapuna. We have Tunapuna, or we lost Tunapuna? Right. Tunapuna and then Sandra Grandi. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah. Good morning, Sean.
Morning.
And good morning to the goodly lady. I was listening to a talk show about 2 or 3 weeks back, and I heard people from Tobago calling in and asking the opposition party that they want candidates, that their party put up candidates of the UNC party in Tobago because they are fed up. I heard that on a talk show.
So how do you interpret that? What do you make of that then?
No, well, I was listening to a talk show.
Yes.
And I heard people from Tobago calling that they want, or that they want, like, it seems as if they want to make choices because, you know, they feel that they are left out.
Do you think they were fed up of the PNM or of the PNM and the TPP, the current executive?
Well, I wouldn't be able to say, but, you know, today it seems like if people need more competition that they could make their choices, not only in Trinidad and Tobago, even in America too.
Yes.
People seems as if they are not being given a full chance to choose what they want, who they want, and whatever.
Yes. Thank you, caller.
Thank you.
We have Sandra Grandi. I agree with that 100%. We need more competition in our politics. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Caller, Sandra Grandi, good morning.
Indeed, and good morning to Mr. Shearer. I'm sure that the independent political analyst right now.
Caller, sorry, we could barely hear you, caller. Could you, I don't know if...
Try again. I am certain that of all the current political analysts, the greatest on the ball, who is most on the ball, I credit Mr. Shearer having that analysis made to be about the ruling PNM. My question is for those of us like me, who is looking for a political alternative. My concern is why some of the other political analysts.
Caller, I'm sorry. You're cutting off. You're being muffled too much. Maybe if you call in, because we're missing important things of what you're saying, so we can't follow what you're saying. So we're gonna have to ask you to maybe try and call in, and it would clear up. We have Faisabad in the meantime. Good morning, caller. You're on here.
Good morning, Sean. Good morning, Mr. Shearer.
Morning.
Mr. Shearer, I want to tell you, Sean, that karma is a real thing. As I sit here chatting with you all, I can remember very well how Mr. Manning was treated when he was chased out of Alize House, so to speak. You know, so I don't think his son would have gotten into politics for getting that. I think there is a reason he's there. It just has not surfaced. And I'm certain it will short me. The other point I want to make, Karen, did you hear the voice note that on the hot mic on Parliament?
No, but a reporter told me what it was, and it's consistent with his leader, isn't it?
Yes, and so I am saying, you know, when you have that kind of leadership, and you know what is frightening about this? The public, listening John public, and they seem to be comfortable with that kind of behavior. I mean, when we have so many bullying taking place and all that kind of thing, and it's emanating from the parliamentary chamber, and that will be recorded in Hansard as a matter of fact, as I think it. The other thing I heard the Prime Minister make note of is that the issue with the sewer system at the diplomatic center.
Yes, oh my God.
I mean, now tell me something. Where are we heading? He's in office 10 years now. So if I am to think that 10 years occupation of that office, it is reasonable to think that the items found there could be linked. However, I am very glad that they have a good internal officer, a good the security man there, I think Mr. Moti is his name. He knows inside out of the diplomatic center and the residence, because I think he's assigned privately to the Prime Minister and his wife. So maybe he's a good person to investigate that thing, because I heard his name jumping up in some issues, Karen. Take care, have a nice day.
Thank you,
I want to say something too, just quickly. I agree with it, that, I think that Trinidad and Tobago within the PNM and even the UNC would be prepared to have in the case of the PNM, a non-African, but it has to be an Indian. It has to be East Indian. Because, it's a strange thing. We've become closer and closer. We've integrated more and more. It is almost like a contradiction. And the same thing goes for the UNC. So I think it is that this gentleman and all that I said is the reason why people would not support him. And
all right. Yeah, because the demographics, yeah. Marval on the line. Good morning, caller. You're on here. Good morning, caller. Caller, morning.
Hi, good morning.
Hi.
I'm calling from Marvel. Good morning, Sean.
Morning.
Good morning, Disha. Is it that Dr. Rowley doing the same thing that he did in and when he came in first and he found he wasn't making the quota, he said he was resigning. Remember when he said he was resigning? And after what is his name, Amy Brown and the good lady from the parliament, what he did with them, he sent them out of the country because they opposed him for the seat, right? And he said, I just say that he said that the same thing that he did
to Mr. Manning.
Mr. Manning, the same thing could happen to him.
Potentially, yeah.
That's what I'm thinking, right? Because if you come out and say you did it in 2020, right? You come out now and say you're doing it now. You're stepping back, and somebody else can take over. He's looking to see who will come out to oppose you to see who, what they call it, the little imps and them who coming out against him. And you know what will happen to him? He will show them and decide same thing like he do Amy Gorman, right? So I'm just thinking of that, because this man is paid there to get Cobalt life, right? Because anytime you oppose, he, like Mr. Manning said, he like a raging bull, right? So anybody come after him to take his position and he want to put Stuart Young or whosoever he want to put, you think he will sit down by and let that happen? And all these big financiers who he have there want him to go to put who they want. You think they want Pamela Beckers, who was there from the start of the party, or Amy Brown there? He now come in there. How you could put the and I just call him a little boy because he have no come. He say anything. I think he could tell anybody anything. He's like Dr. Rowley, so Dr. Rowley want to put he there to bully people when he out, so he could tell people what to do, when to do it, and listen to me. Right? He don't care about people. He is I call him a little boy.
Yeah.
Just like his boss. They don't care.
Yeah, he don't care about other people. The other day, a lady could be your mother or your grandmother, right? You if she son that come out in that with a big thing in the parliament too.
Okay.
This boy have no decorum about him or nothing. I'm sorry, I don't like him.
All right, caller. Thank you for that. I'll just say this quick. We have time for any line, but history repeats itself sometimes, because NH International Executive Chairman has already come out, like in the past, and complained about contracts. I'm just saying, history might repeat itself again. We have Stanford on the line. Good morning, caller. You're on here.
Good morning to the young lady and Sean.
Morning,
Oh, young lady, good.
Yeah, now listen to this. I will forget the innuendos, right? If you want to re-examine that clip from Parliament, right, you will clearly see that Mr. Imbot was on his legs. He was talking and then give way to the speaker when she arrived.
Yes.
So therefore the mic was live by him,
Yes.
not in the key room. Okay? And also, when Imbot started giggy, it's because he knew that it was on, and he edged on Stuart Young to say what he said, because he already sees Stuart Young as a adversary. You understand? He started to act before me. So you know what? I will set him up. Right? That's one.
It's not hard to have set him up. And you know what I noticed? I don't know what to make of it, but I noticed that the Minister of Finance also says he's going to release the spending on the Office of the Prime Minister. You don't understand these people, you know. If you were inside of there, do not put, I don't know what to make of it, but let's put it this way, do not put anything beyond what they're capable of doing.
Caller, you have something else?
I thought he stopped.
Oh, you gone?
No, you
Okay.
just finished.
Okay, we have Sandra Grande in line. I think Sandra Grande back. Good morning, caller. Caller, good morning. Oh, no.
Something is wrong.
Political analyst that we are hearing.
Sandra Grande, is something with your connection? I don't know if it's your phone, because your microphone, it doesn't seem like you're cutting off, but your microphone gets muffled at times. So I don't know if it's the connection. I don't know if it's on our end, your end, or the microphone of your phone rather than the connection. We have one last caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Sorry about that, Sandra Grande. Morning, caller. You're on here. Caller, good morning. Caller?
Hello, yes.
Yes, morning, caller.
I'm calling from Woodbrook.
Yes.
Commented on Karen's comment earlier about...
Don't listen to the TV, caller. Mute your TV. Listen to the phone.
Okay. Yes, I want to comment on Karen's earlier comment about Dr. Rowley wanting to appoint a successor who isn't easily identified at the grassroots. Dr. Rowley himself never identified at the grassroots either.
Go ahead, caller. This is why you need to mute the TV, caller. Don't listen to the TV. All right, thank you. I guess
But one thing about him is, as we all know, and let us not pretend, he was considered, remember there was a time that they say he was too black to be prime minister. The reason why a lot of people identify with him because he is an Afro-Trinidadian, as an Afro-Trinidadian as you could get, and his mannerisms are ones in which he seems to, on his nightly meetings, appeal to them and say, don't worry, I play in golf, I go in on the boats, I drink in Johnny Walker Blue.
You mean the finances?
Yeah. He understands. Let Dr. Rowley have been looking like Stuart Young and see if he would have been prime minister.
The thing is,
do not underestimate. Do not underestimate that he understands that the value of his blackness is appealing to the base who figure that is somebody in their corner, who is not in their corner, who is in the corner of the financiers, but they prefer to believe that, and that is the difference between him and Stuart Young. And if you don't want to see that, guess what? They do.
The thing is, the base of the party
and more than
rallied around him immediately after that election was lost. Immediately, the winds have changed in the party. So the base of the party...
Because they see him for who he is now. Always playing golf, always with the financiers, and it looked like the only people that benefited in this country are them. But the 5,500 houses, the 550 houses, the Ines Gate, I could go on and on. The giving his friend, what's his name is again? Warner,
yes.
who was illegally quarried and therefore not paying taxes. Going on 2 weeks later, the Commissioner of Lands giving him permission to quarry on that land, and he trying to remove the injunction and get back his equipment, and the court said no, going for the FUL and said, I will come and pick it up. Give me a break. The only reason Dr. Rowley gets away with it, and he knows that I was inside there, I understand the politics enough. He's using his blackness and his coming from a poor Tobago to rally the forces of the PNM. Let him look like Stuart Young and see if he would have been able to do that. And be real.
I'd just like to point out,
be
folks,
real.
If anybody, he may have come from a poorer background, but he ain't poor right now. So now the question is,
but he uses that.
Yes, but I'll bet you money that if you add up his salary in Parliament, it ain't gonna reach his net worth.
Traveling all over the world, pretending he getting money first, bringing in that Jindal guy. Listen, the list goes on and on. But you know what? I'm sad to say this, but it is a truth. What did he do for you? What did he do for you? But you're holding on to him. If he was not how, and he understands that. I will not call the name of another colleague, but that colleague, and I won't even call the gender, but that colleague knew that coming from certain parts of Trinidad and other physical attributes or lack of attributes, utilize that in order to gain empathy and sympathy. It is just part of the playbook. And if you don't understand that is the playbook, then you don't understand politics.
And I'll just like to point out that one near constant, or at least observable, regular occurrence is when you vote on things like race, when that's one of your primary considerations, more often than not,
He's not even brown skin.
You don't.
He's not even red skin.
You
understand?
You do not.
Like
things do not work out.
We put you up. We putting you up.
All right. But when you vote on things like race, what tends to happen is you do not get what you thought you were getting with regards to the benefits to you and the betterment of your life.
I have to say, because I was inside of there, you have to understand. They understand. They have advisors. They have marketing people. They have people and they use what will help them to get the vote. And in one sense, Dr. Rowley's blackness, which is a good-looking man as far as I'm concerned, and so, charismatic and very intelligent, and he is a good politician. I can tell you that one. The fact of the matter is, he understands the value of his blackness to the appeal to the base, and not only the base, beyond the base, and his financiers. He understands as alleged financiers.
Well, with that said, I just wish they would they pay attention to the marketing people. I just wish they would pay attention to their public relations people when they write the speeches for them and not go off the top so much.
I said Shims, huh? I didn't. I said Shims.
Just a small accident, but with that said, make today a good day, as Mrs. Shaw will say. Thank you to all the callers and to the good lady herself. Remember your allegiance to the Republic, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
WESN.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for, it's called loss and damage. And we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region. Man is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when